Alright, today I'm going to be starting a series of videos talking about the alignments as they are applied in D&D and Pathfinder. Now, we're going to be starting with Lawful Evil today because a friend asked me to go over a video on anti-heroes, and since his anti-hero is Lawful Evil, I figured that was the best alignment to start with. Now, when you get into Lawful Evil, it's a very unique and interesting alignment because it can do something that the other alignments really don't have much wiggle room to do, and that is feign the impression of other alignments. Now, any alignment can bluff and, deceive, but by raw action, Lawful Evil has a bit of malleability to it that most other alignments don't. And when you look at that, the reason why it does that is because you have what is the interpretation of law and what is the interpretation of evil. When you get into on the law and chaos axis or the good and evil axis, any other of the 9 alignments, you don't see the ability to interpret law or evil in the manner in which Lawful Evil does. And when you get into that, let's take 2 examples. The Corrupt King and the Honorable Assassin. Now, I'm not going to touch on the interpretation of whether or not assassination is evil. I'm just going to clarify that what I am talking about right here is murder for profit. I'm not talking about political assassinations of enemy nation leaders under orders. I'm not talking about any other interpretation, but you are willing to kill someone exclusively for a paycheck and for no other reason. That is evil in my book, and that is what I am discussing right now. I will probably do a video later on the many different shades of assassination. But that's not the focus. That'll take up too much time. So, when you look at the Honorable Assassin, what is he? He is somebody who has zero moral qualms about being told to kill somebody, being promised a considerable sum of money to do so, and then doing so exclusively to receive that paycheck. It doesn't matter who the person is, it doesn't matter what they do, it doesn't matter the impact they have on the world. They are a assignment. They have literally no other value than that. And the fact that you are willing to terminate life on such black and white terms is evil. But outside of that singular facet, that willing to kill for profit, they could be viewed by everyone who knows them as a complete saint, because that is the only thing that distinguishes them as evil. And that still makes them evil, but when you go to the Corrupt King, who is also Lawful Evil, he is lawful because the laws of the land may be governed by him, and there's an argument that I'm not going to get into at length because it's very long and tedious, that because he makes the laws of the land, he is no longer lawful because the laws of the land don't apply to him. He is lawful, and the reason why he is lawful is because when you get to someone who rules a nation and is evil, they have numerous evil acts they are going to commit. They are going to start wars over nothing but power. They are going to torture. They are going to execute in very inhumane fashions. They are going to, and another one that doesn't have to be, they may treat their people very poorly. But what makes this character different is that, in addition to committing many acts, their means of coping on a lawful scale is they don't care about the well-being of others. They don't care about the prosperity of good. But to have peace with other nations, to do things like honor surrender, to do things like negotiate, don't demonstrate that they are good, even though it is a mimicry of being good, but it demonstrates a precedence that you are capable of being reasoned with. It demonstrates that you are capable of approaching without complete and utter sense of fear. And that gives you an advantage, not just when you're at a disadvantage to your opponents, but when you are neutral, because that deems you a less of a threat than, say, the chaotic evil barbarian warlord that really will just attack you because he doesn't like you. The lawful evil king may not like you, but you have a peace treaty, and he has proven that that peace treaty means something. You're probably suspecting that he's going to break it at some point, but you know that it holds him at bay for a time. And he likes having that precedence, because should he be at a disadvantage, or even not at his most opportune time to spread his own agenda, that peace treaty will also keep you at bay. And that is the type of mentality that a lawful evil person on a grander scale than the solitary assassin will operate on. It's a demonstration that it is a more stable means of existence. It is a code of conduct they adhere to, not because they are good people, not because they like that code, but because it is the most viable means of gaining their own ends, and the least, and the means of gathering the least resistance against you. Now, on the note of anti-heroes, lawful evil anti-heroes, and I do have plans to make videos for neutral evil and chaotic evil and how anti-heroes exist in those alignments. The lawful evil anti-hero is different than the lawful evil villain in one signature trait, where the lawful evil villain clearly has villainous intent, or at the very least, utterly personal intent with zero regard for the harm of others, which is another example of lawful evil. You don't have to have an agenda if you're evil. You could just be somebody who has zero qualms about committing utterly immoral acts in your day-to-day life. But whichever it is, the lawful evil anti-hero has heroic intentions and has the desire to achieve the goals of the hero. And that makes them a very interesting character, because all the taboos that you run across with lawful evil, and that's something I haven't gone over yet. The lawful evil, another signature trait about them is, like I said, not just the willingness to negotiate, set peace treaties, establish peace times, or in the case of the assassin, that one thing they do wrong, and other than that they're a good guy. They may genuinely have taboos if they have more widespread evils, unlike the assassin. They may not murder children. They may not steal. They may insist that surrenders be dealt with civility as opposed to met with torture and death, despite how unappealing the circumstance may normally be. But those are rules they set upon themselves to set themselves as a higher status than an evil that would otherwise not show such restraint. It's not a matter of morality, it's a matter of pride. And a lawful evil anti-hero has those same taboos, which gives him a bit of leeway when negotiating with his heroic counterparts. If you have a neutral evil or a chaotic evil anti-hero, they may genuinely have the good intentions of others in mind, but they generally gather the ire of the other heroes more quickly and more severely, because they don't show much restraint, if any. Whereas the lawful evil anti-hero has a considerable amount of restraint that buys him some room to argue with his heroic counterparts should they catch him doing something that is less than moral. And like the lawful evil villain, he has this code of conduct because when negotiating heroic terms, it buys him some room to argue. And so it's a feigned morality, or a feigned sense of dignity, because it is easier and less conflicting for him or her to make such a case. So when you look at the villain and the anti-hero of the lawful evil alignments, the signature traits that set them apart is not necessarily that they have an exclusive code they have to follow, which is the case of the laws of the land, but that they have a code they have to follow. Whether it be a restrictive code or a relaxed code, the rules they make, they consider every bit as much of a taboo as a good person would committing an evil act. Because it's part of their personality, and they have a variety of motivations and reasons for believing that these rules will better their existence, or if they do care about others, the existence of others. So just something I'm going to touch very briefly here is that evil is not excluded from things such as love or compassion or even kindness. It's just a matter of that the evil actions they demonstrate to a degree and a capacity and a frequency that outweigh the good they do. Like, the honorable assassin kills too often and too eagerly for his good deeds to outweigh. Whereas, if you had to kill someone once because it was just, if you felt like it needed to be done and they were threatening this person or they were going to do this bad deed, that's a different matter entirely. But it is the severity and frequency of which they commit the evil acts that define them as evil. It is the restrictions they place upon themselves, not just for good and evil acts, but on their actions as a whole, that deems them lawful. And that is lawful evil in a nutshell as far as I am concerned. Now, I hope you found this video informative. I will be doing the rest of the alignments as quickly as I can, though they may not be in immediate succession because I may have other ideas that come up in between them. But if you like this video, please subscribe, and until next time, happy adventures.